Time zone appropriate greeting to you and welcome back to the channel. Today's community spotlight is with the loyal servant of the hive mind, chapter master of the Emperor's Hands, one part of the hobby gods, that is Twisted Dice, and YouTube legend Aceface. Welcome.
Hello, that's an awesome intro. I like that. Definitely keep that one.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Wooden Spoon Wargaming and our community spotlight. In this, I'll be asking you two sets of questions, A and B. A is what I ask everyone, and B is more tailored towards yourself.
Excellent, sounds good.
Let's jump in 2 feet. How did you start in the hobby of tabletop wargaming?
Well, I think it's a very similar story to like so many people. So, you know, it's not the most exciting, but started off at about sort of 14, 15 with my younger brother, just because we liked the models and didn't really have a clue what we were doing. So just bought loads of models, painted them badly, never really understood the rules. This was back in sort of 2nd edition, I think, which probably ages me slightly. Then kind of, as so many people, got a bit bored of it, got more excited with computer games and, more importantly, girls, and left the hobby up until a lot more recently. So in end of 2011, beginning of 2012, I was pretty sick and off work, so I kind of just sort of found a few bits and pieces kind of in storage, and at the same time my dad was moving, so he said, look, I've got all your rubbish in the loft, do you want it? So I grabbed all the stuff off him, and it kind of rekindled my kind of love in the game. So I sort of started back again then. But yeah, just originally it was just kind of because the models look cool when we walk through the kind of shopping centres.
What type of hobbyist are you? A painter, collector, gamer, or a bit of a mix?
It's a really, really good question, and myself and Darren, the co-founder of Twisted Dice, we were talking about the other day, and I suppose really what we both kind of strive for, and I suppose particularly what I definitely strive for is to kind of almost be like a triple threat, to really be into all elements of it. You know, because I've always loved the kind of the fluff and the hobby element of it, but I also trying to push myself to be the best painter that I can be, trying to kind of do different techniques and try different things to kind of push my standard of painting. But at my heart, I'm a very, very competitive person. Always was at kind of school and you know, in sports and things like that. So the competitive side of being a gamer really floats my boat as well. That I think is probably my go-to of the three. But I definitely try my best to be good in all kind of elements. So rather than be amazing at one, I try to kind of be good at all of them. If that makes sense.
Yeah. What game systems do you play at the moment? Are you simply a one-person system player, or have you started to spread out?
It's like I've always wanted to spread out, and I've dipped my toe in other games, but I've got a family, and I've got a fairly responsible kind of day-to-day job that at the moment with that, and actually doing the YouTube stuff and the community stuff and running tournaments, I just don't have time to really be able to go into anything else. So I kind of got into Age of Sigmar quite a lot at the tail end of 7th, but then when 8th edition came out, jumped back into 40k, and I haven't really looked back at anything else since. So I would love to play so many other games. I really had a little delve into Malifaux. I loved the kind of the feel and the models of Malifaux and the way that kind of skirmish system with cards worked. Really, really loved that. But I don't have a lot of time, so I end up, if you're going to try and do something well, you have to focus quite a bit of time on getting that right. So yeah, always tend to go back to 40k, and 40k is pretty much my solo game currently.
What advice would you give someone just starting out in the hobby, or maybe your younger self now you've been involved for a while?
Yeah, so do what you love and don't get caught up with chasing anything particular in any of the formats. There's social media, and there's just a plethora of amazing content all over the internet and everywhere you look in all formats. So whether it be hobby, whether it be painting, whether it be all the different game systems. But I think there's some really high standards in all elements. So if you're in the if you kind of you're striving to be competitive, the temptation is just to jump in and get whatever is competitive right there. But I think if you kind of go with your heart and what you love the most, that will keep your longevity in whatever element you go for. And I think that's probably the best advice, because you will find burnout if you're just chasing that dragon in whatever element you want to go for.
What's the best part about the hobby for you?
The gaming. I think the gaming side is what I really love most. I love the opportunity to kind of, it's particularly kind of tournaments. So it's not only the gaming, but it's everything that entails in preparing and getting yourself ready and then going to a tournament. So there's elements of all sides of the hobby getting there, and then when you get to that kind of tournament, you're spending time with generally people that are very like-minded. There's a real kind of social side there. You're sharing all elements of the hobby. It's just like a really cool place to be, and I just find it's what I love the most, is being at a tournament and gaming.
And then on the flip side, what's the worst part about the hobby for you?
Building models. It sucks massively. I hate assembling and building and all that. And I'm terrible at it. I'm awful. And the more I get into painting at a high level, the more it stumps me continuously, because I'm always in such a rush to build something so I can start really enjoying it and painting it. The amount of times I'll leave mold lines on, which then I'm halfway through painting it and I notice it, or I've left something off and I've gone too far down the assembly line. I'm rubbish with instructions. I just absolutely suck at building and assembly of models, and I think that's, if everything was built for me, I would probably have very little pile of shame, because I love painting and I love like playing with stuff, but I would just get stumped if I see like a big old pile of stuff. I'm just stumped by it.
So anyone with a hobby building service should reach out to you then?
Yeah, exactly. As long as it's cheap, then I'm well up for that. But yeah.
So what keeps you in the hobby?
The people, 100%. It's it's the social side of it. It's the social side that I've missed mostly, being in this kind of lockdown period. That's kind of what keeps you going. That interaction with like-minded people. I think if it wasn't for that, as much as the models are so cool and the game is amazing and the fluff is so immersive, without the community and the people, and that is ultimately why the YouTube stuff and everything probably came more and more from that, because it's even more of an excuse to interact and kind of be within the kind of community.
How would you deal with a burnout or a lack of hobby mojo?
It's always one of the hardest things, isn't it? Like it isn't an easy thing, and I've had it several times. I tend to find that the best trick with it is kind of walk away for a start, have a little bit of a break. Maybe it's a day or a couple of days off, and then I always have a tidy. That sounds a really silly thing, but I think our hobby desks or hobby areas tend to get like really cluttered with projects and paints and assembly stuff. So sometimes just even if you're feeling that kind of burnout, to kind of go to your hobby area and give it like a really good once over and a tidy, put everything where you want it to be, so it really looks quite inviting. And then if you walk away from it again, when you come back, I think it encourages you, because you think, oh, actually, I'm working in that space now, and that sometimes can get you back involved with whatever it is you need to kind of get on with. The other thing that's really good is try something completely different. So when I went off on this kind of little sabbatical that we're all having to, or some of us are having to face with the lockdown, I painted quite a lot early on in my time off, and found a bit of burnout then. So I kind of ordered something from a completely different company and started painting something dramatically different, and that really started to kind of get those hobby and kind of creative juices flowing, which now, when I finish that and put that down, I'm now really excited to get back on with doing, the standard kind of 40k stuff. So I think 1 is taking a break, 2 is giving yourself a nice tidy of your workspace, and then 3 is maybe just switching it up and trying something different for a little bit.
What personal projects are you working on at the moment?
So loads of bits and pieces. So with what have I got? So I've got a huge legion of Primera Space Marines that are kind of based and first kind of coats on them. So they're all ready for kind of edge highlights and detail work. There's about 30 of those, which is going to take me some time. I've got a little bit more some more sort of guns for my battle suits, because I'm really excited about playing battle suits again. That after the recent update, they got really quite attractive to look at again. So I've started working a bit on them. I've also got some orcs that I still want to finish off again for the channel, which I've got another Gorgon orc that I need to assemble. Comes back to the assembly bit. I don't want to assemble it, but I want to do that, and a few other kind of orc bits and pieces. But there's loads. Like, the list goes on. It's just a constant conveyor belt of different projects. But it is nice because I'm working with so many different armies, one from a personal point of view, but also from the channel point of view. It does keep things varied, so the different projects are quite varied, which is good.
Do you plan out your projects' armies, or do you just get sucked in the trap of collecting everything?
I'd like to say that I'm super organised and that it's all planned out, but it very much depends on the way that the meta and what's kind of needed takes me. So so there's no doubt about it. We've got Engine Wars that's coming up right soon. So I've got some Forge World Chaos Knights that I need to finish for Fabius, who also works on the channel, Chris. So I need to get them done because they need to be ready for when that drops down. And if there are some other cool stuff within that release, that will probably get me kind of fired up on working on a few bits and pieces for that. So it's kind of a combination. If there's some downtime and there's nothing that's particularly hot within the kind of community and the meta, then I'll pretty much stick on track, and I've got a kind of almost like a timeline of what I want to work on. But as soon as something hits, it will be the same with obviously the Necron stuff. Like, we'll need to. We've got a couple of Necron armies with different people that are involved in the channel, but we'll need to kind of update those and work on them with all the cool stuff that's coming out. So it will depend on what's hot, I suppose. But there's some sort of plan in the background somewhere.
If your budget was unlimited, but you'd only buy one army, what would it be?
Oh, that is a really, really good question. I think I've got the armies that I kind of want. So there isn't necessarily any new kind of army that I have a burning desire to have. I think probably the one that I don't have anything of that wouldn't necessarily be hugely useful in any element of what I've going on at the moment, but would just be cool, is to have a full Slaanesh kind of demon, but with a kind of a bit of Space Marines in there, as Chaos Space Marines in there. don't have a lot of Slanesh, and that would be really, really cool to work on some really bright, vivid pinks and some kind of out there colours to do something really wild and wacky. Get some of the big greater demons in there and have some fun with that. So yeah, I suppose if someone just gave me a load of money and I just needed to spend it on the hobby, that's probably the direction that I'd probably go with.
What do you hope to improve about your hobbying in the future?
I'd like to continue to improve my painting. Again, like kind of almost anti against the own advice. My own advice is I look at tons of Instagram. I find it incredibly inspiring, and when I look at some of the amazing painters that produce such incredible works, I'm always trying to push myself to learn a little technique. So I'm really trying to master the non-metallic metal. I'm okay at it, but I see some just incredible stuff, and I'm always trying to push myself to get a little bit better at that, and then it's on to the kind of the next technique. Same with like kind of flesh and skin. I'm always trying to make that a little bit cleaner, a little bit smoother, working on my blends. And I think I always want to push that. I think from it easy to sort of say get better at the game, but the reality is that just takes a lot of practice and commitment. I'm pretty happy that I could do that if I had the time. But painting's something I probably do have time to do. I just always want to kind of improve.
Has anyone inspired your hobby, style or life?
So I was originally inspired a lot by like the mini wargaming guys when I very first kind of got back in the hobby. Just Dave and Matt, and I've been really, really fortunate to meet and spend a bit of time with them both. And yeah, originally they were very much integral to me seeing the hobby through a slightly different set of eyes. I think when I came back to the hobby, I had no idea that there was kind of this kind of competitive environment, but also like almost like an adult environment. I thought it was very much sort of a kids thing, I suppose, when I got back into the hobby. But I think just by watching those early YouTube videos and seeing what they were doing, that very much inspired me to start to look at those bits and pieces. And Matt in the early days was probably pretty inspirational in me very much going two-footed into Tyranids. So I think those guys were very early on inspirations. Shortly after that, the guys at Frontline Gaming, very much like rough and ready battle reports back in the day, but they were just starting off the kind of ITC, and I loved their kind of real high competitive feel to what they were doing and what they were going after. So I found them very, very inspiring as well. So yeah, there's been a few people back in the day when I kind of started off. So yeah, there's a few names.
Okay, and now we're on to section B, part 2, which is questions which are more tailored towards your good self.
Awesome.
You're a very well-known Tyranid player with a beautiful High Fleet Voro army. How did you develop the scheme?
Yeah, so this is one of my favourite stories. I love this story, so I'll try and kind of break it down because it's quite interesting. So when I started, and I kind of briefly, it kind of tailors quite nicely from what we just spoke about. So I started back into the hobby and kind of going into Tyranids, and I needed a kind of a colour scheme. So I went into Games Workshop, looked at their colour schemes, and at the time I was watching Mini Wargaming, so I kind of decided just to go with what I liked at the time, which was the High Fleet Kraken, which is the kind of very classic reddy orangey kind of carapace and the cream skin. So that was kind of what I started with, and I did that for probably about 1,500 points worth of Tyranids until I started to feel the need to want to have something that's unique and something that I could continue to paint and enjoy in a big army. And totally coincidental, I was just scrolling through eBay one evening, and I saw this Carnifex painted really beautifully with these kind of pinstripe carapace and bright, vivid green scything talons. And it wasn't particularly expensive on eBay, so I grabbed that because I was like, this is great, I just love this. At the time, I had no intentions of that being the colour scheme. But I kind of then I tried to sort of to mirror it, and at the time I wasn't a very good painter. I struggled. It ended up being kind of more of a dry brush than the pinstripes, and the green was not as beautifully blended because this model was all airbrushed and looked really, really lovely. But I started trying to kind of base my army on that, and started to then slowly but surely repaint all my Kraken into what was then going to be High Fleet Voro. I put back when I think I had about 300 subs at the time on my own channel, so this was within the first couple of years. I put a kind of a poll out, a video to try and name it. So a good friend of mine, Clayton, came up with the name Voro, which is Latin for the Devourer. So I thought that was such a cool name, and it was easy for me to remember because I'm terrible with names. So that was the name that we went for, and that's kind of stuck. And slowly but surely, I've kind of developed my technique as I've mastered the airbrush, and slowly but surely got kind of closer to that original model style. But in the process, I found the contact for the person that painted it. And I kind of reached out to her. It's a lady called Sarah Brady. She used to do commission painting. She doesn't really anymore. So I reached out to her and said, look, would you be able to maybe paint some more Tyranids, because I just love your style. And I've got a High Fleet that's kind of copied off it now. And she was like, well, I don't really do armies or units. I just do individual models. I can't, So I was like, oh, okay, no problem. I sent her a picture of, at the time, was about, by that point, about 20,000 points of painted Tyranids in the scheme that she had painted. She was so blown over by the kind of the thought that someone had taken her colour scheme and created like a huge army with it, that she said, wear the model you want, just send it to me, I'll paint it for you free of charge. I can't do any more than that, but I'll paint you a model. So she painted a Flying Hive Tyrant for me, which is still probably, one of my centerpieces within my army. It's beautifully painted, but it's just amazing, just to kind of make that kind of contact again. And then from there, it's just got bigger and bigger, and I've kind of constantly refined and made that colour scheme sort of better and better each year. I each time tried to push a little element of it, whether it's the skin or whether it's making those lines a little bit crisper. Whatever it is, I just continuously try and improve it. And I've enjoyed that side of it, because I think if I just went, right, I've made I don't know, 10,000 points of dry brush blue and grey and green Tyranids, I think I probably would have burnt out on it. But the fact that I've kind of accepted that it won't all be necessarily identical, but it's within the colour scheme, it's given me the ability to stay true to the High Fleet and to continue to grow it by still pushing my ability as I work. So it's quite a long drawn out story, but yeah, really, really important to kind of my High Fleet, and kind of, like you say, what I'm maybe known for.
I think it is purely good because with like such an army that you've enjoyed actually putting together, you're able to pull pieces of the army apart, and you have like a list which has got like 9 Carnifexes in, or then next week on the channel you've got 120 Griblies. So
absolutely,
definitely helps. Have you got any tips for people wanting to start a Tyranid army? Where would you go for like the first 1,000 points?
Go and watch my videos.
Links below.
No, yeah, exactly. Just let's go for the massive seamless plug. But in all joking apart, like, I mean, it's I put a video out really recently just about having to start how to start your Tyranid army. But in a nutshell, again, pretty much back to what I said earlier on in the chat, is go for what you love. Don't get drawn into what is meant to be good, because it will just burn you out. If you're building a Tyranid army to be competitive, then well played you, because they're not the most competitive at the moment, and unless you're a really, really good player, you're still going to have potentially quite an uphill battle with them. So if you've decided to go for Tyranids, start on something you love, pick a unit or a few units that you just, that you can't get enough of, and buy them, build them, have fun with them. If they're rubbish on the table, who cares? Because we're about to go into a new edition soon. Things will probably all change, and they've changed 100 times since I've been playing Tyranids. So don't get wrapped up in the competitive side of it. Accept the fact that maybe the stuff you buy is not going to be the strongest on the table. So the start collecting boxes are a great tool, because they give you a big Gribbly in there, they give you some middle-sized Gribbly, and they give you some little ones, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, go for what you love. Start there, and there are a lot of videos. Either you can go back onto my old channel, or you can check out Twisted Dice, where I'm putting up loads of new ones at the moment, and I will be continuing to update them. So, and I'm trying to tailor it back to the beginner Tyranid player again. So if you are starting off a Tyranid army, it's probably the best time to check out some of those videos. So yeah.
If you could design a Tyranid monstrous creature, what would it be like?
Something massive. So I'd love to go for the kind of the Norm Queen style-esque, like huge brain bug. But obviously I want to see it in plastic. I don't want a Forge World thing. Just like a huge, just a real kind of almost something you could put on the field, and it would give kind of a huge synaptic bubble, and just be like a massive monster that would just kind of sit in the backfield, or slowly kind of plod up, and just look really menacing, and just kind of the idea of where we've got Primarchs coming back, and we've got obviously the Silent King now that we've seen. It would be cool to have a Norm Queen, like the huge big queen bug on the table would just be immense. So yeah, something that I would love to see something, and there's not many pictures of a Norm Queen, so it would be cool to have something really, really cool looking and menacing. That's what I would go with.
So like size wise, we're looking at like a Knight Castellan, that size?
Yeah, absolutely, but sort of maybe like slightly shorter, but wider and kind of longer almost, so that's how I would see it, because obviously things need to be in the right. So I would like to see it kind of almost Baneblade size, a little bit higher than the Baneblade, but Baneblade kind of footprint would be just insane. Like that would be incredible. That it gets me excited. Just the thought of something like that on the table for Tyranids would be brilliant.
You're very active playing wise in the tournament scene here in the UK and abroad. What's the best part, firstly, about going to a different area in the UK away from your gaming sphere, and secondly abroad to places such as America and to the awesome guys in Gibraltar?
Yeah, so meeting people in all elements of the tournament scene is always the highlight of any event that you go to. So I mean, when I go to areas within the UK, quite often it's a case of catching up with people that I don't see that often, and kind of swapping stories, looking at their kind of hobby progress. I find that's always really, really exciting. And also quite often it's a relatively small community, and you end up playing the same people. So quite often, you got a grudge match, you get beaten last time, and it's a good opportunity for you to go out and see if you can get revenge, or outplay them this time. I mean, quite often I end up playing Lawrence from Tabletop Tactics. It's a bit of a running joke. Doesn't seem to matter wherever we go, whether it's the US or whether it's here in England. Whenever we're both at a tournament together, we always end up playing each other. But it's always a lot of fun, and that's probably the best bit. And then when you kind of go overseas, and so I've been really, really fortunate that I've been to now 6 LVOs. So majority of them since they started, and I've made so many amazing friends that I see once a year, and it's become like a habit, and a dangerous habit because it's not cheap, but it's great because I kind of look forward to going out drinking and having a meal with these guys in the evening, and it's just like that's almost more important than any other element of it. So the opportunity to kind of catch up with people the other side of the world is just incredible. So yeah, that community element and being able to actually meet the people that you interact with through the YouTube channels, through kind of just chats, is just a great thing. And I don't think something that in a lot of other industry stroke communities people would have the opportunity to do. So I think we're really fortunate that we have the ability, because it's a small enough community to actually meet so many people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis.
Have you got any advice for someone wanting to start going to events themselves?
Yeah. So again, don't worry about trying to win it. Take enjoyment for the elements of it that you have control in. So, you know, if it's an opportunity for you to push your hobby to try and get an army completely painted, maybe because there's so many people that struggle to get that determination and drive to paint a whole army, and quite often I found that if you do have hobby burnout, or you're struggling to find the determination to get projects finished, there's nothing better than the deadline of a tournament to drive your hobby on. So even if it's you can use it as that, you can use it as a challenge, as a target to get something painted. You can use it as, you know, set your expectations low. Say, well, actually, I want to win a game. Or I don't even want to win a game. I just want to see how many points I can get, or I want to have the opportunity to go to these events and meet some of these people that I hear about. And I don't think there's, and I can't think of anybody that I've ever met and known about that has a problem with people meeting them. So everybody wants to talk hobby. Everybody wants to say hello. So all those people that you know, whoever, whatever kind of YouTube channel that you follow that goes to tournaments, or that very competitive player that you've heard about, they'll be really pleased to kind of say hello, to share a beer with you, or, you know, just share some chat, and that in itself is a great opportunity. And then also, if you've got friends, try and rope them in as well. Go out and have a great night, whether it's just sitting around a restaurant table and sharing some horrendous luck you've had from that day, or that amazing roll that you made to clinch the result. All those sort of things are the best bits about being at a tournament. So don't worry about how well you need to do, or you know, or you need to have a certain list to compete. Just set your goals really realistic, and just make them set so you can have fun with it. I think that is so important. And don't worry about other players, because in my experience, tournament players and competitive players are some of the nicest people you will ever meet. And in fact, I would almost go as far as to say the better players are the nicer people. The people that you tend to struggle with, and this is a really tiny fragment of the competitive players, are people that are probably the tryhards, the people that aren't necessarily great at the moment, but feel that they have a need to want to be good now, and that sometimes can put them in an uncomfortable place because their expectations are unrealistic, and then that can leave a bad taste, and that's a very tiny few people. But majority of people are great. And the high competitive people, if you end up on a table with them, you'll probably play one of your best games, because they're great guys. So yeah, I'd just jump in two-footed. I can't recommend it enough as a great experience.
You then started to move away from playing and into running events yourself, with events such as the Northwest Open, the Last Chance Open as well. How much planning and preparation goes into these events before the players turn up on the day and play war dollies?
Too much. Don't do it. No, it's an awful lot, and yeah, there's probably enough information just for a whole show just on that, and people have done it in the past. But yeah, it's something I love because it's an opportunity to bring people together, and a very selfish way of me dragging all my friends to one tournament because saying they have to go because it's my tournament. But yeah, an awful lot of planning and preparation goes into them. When you say a Northwest Open, the Last Chance Open, I almost get a little bit of a lump in my throat because unfortunately they're a thing of the past. I worked really, really hard with Martin McNeil, my really, really good friend, and we worked absolutely tirelessly to get those events from when they started off as 30-man events to the Last Chance Open. When we did the last one was 120 players, and it was an incredible event in a beautiful place, and now I've kind of started all from scratch, and myself and Darren are running Twisted Dice tournaments, and we've been growing them back up from 15-20 man one day events, and now we're up to kind of 40-50 man events. So it's kind of the whole process starts again, but it's there's a lot of preparation that comes from the marketing side of things. So you've got to make sure there are so many tournaments out there. You've got to do a lot of work to make sure that people notice your tournament, and that's not necessarily it's not a bad thing. It's just because there's so many, it's hard to see the wood for the trees at the moment. So you've got to put them in the right place at the right time and contact the right people, and then it's making sure that you achieve a great experience for your players. I've done kind of work in my real life, if you like, on kind of marketing and sales and hospitality, and a lot of my kind of schooling and training is along that kind of field. And I suppose my real simple philosophy on tournament running is each tournament, doesn't matter what size it is, make it the best it possibly can be. Don't worry about whether it's 100 man or a 200 man or 1,000 man. It has to be good for what it is. Because if it's great and that experience is as best as it can be, then you're always planning that those. So if you start with a 20-man event, that those 20 players are all going to want to buy a ticket straight away when you put a new one out. So you know that you've guaranteed 20. So now you've only got to fight for the next 30 or 40, whatever you want to grow to. So if at every stage you make that event so good for those amount of people, then as you grow it, hopefully you can continue to engage more players and grow the event. But trying to look too far in advance, I think, is the thing that a lot of TOs, the trap that they fall into. And then you sacrifice the quality of terrain, the quality of experience, and the quality of venue. So just making that event the best it possibly can is what I've kind of always tried to put my hat on and try to achieve. So yeah, but it's a hard work, and if you want to go for it, good luck to you, and reach out to me if you want any help. More than happy to help anybody, but it's a lot of hard work, and it's a tough old road.
Do you miss playing the events when you're running them?
Yes, yeah, hugely, and that's a big sacrifice. The amount of times I've run an event and thought I would love to play at this event right now. It's tough, and in fact, a few of the earlier ones I did play in, and I hated the experience, because you find your head's on two different things. So when I play, I want to give 100%. I want the player across the table from me to know that they've got 100% of my focus, that I'm giving them 100%, so they enjoy their experience, so I enjoy my experience, and we have hopefully a really, really good game. If you're a TO, it's impossible to be able to do that without having your mind on the global thing, particularly if you want the event to be good. If you're making the event just so you can play an event, then you're probably not the right person to be a TO. So it's kind of, it is a catch-22 situation. It's always really, really difficult. And when I've had to kind of jump in to make up the numbers, to make that odd or even number, it's always a really difficult place to be. Because all I want to do when I'm running a tournament is I want to be checking on every table constantly, all the time, to make sure that everybody is having a great time, and that if there's any concerns or problems, if I can solve them, I'll try and solve them. So yeah, I really hate playing in my own events, but at the same time, I would love to. So it's a real difficult one. Really difficult.
You were first well known on YouTube through the channel Aceface. this channel you've alluded to before helped you recover from a physical and mental issues. Did making the channel help speed up this recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. And more than anything, it just it kept me sane, I think, is the biggest thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm quite open in the fact that unfortunately I had to have a liver transplant. It was kind of no fault to my own. I was born with an unfortunate condition that deteriorated to the extent that in 2012 I had to have a liver transplant. And in that time, when my physical condition was really deteriorating, my immediate reaction was to go straight to the Xbox and play loads of Call of Duty and loads of competitive kind of player versus player stuff. And it was fine, but what I would find at the end of the day, I felt very unrewarded, very lonely at times. And I found it, quite depressing and obviously frightening with the fact that my condition was not going great. So when I found the hobby and I found the opportunity to watch YouTube channels that were really interesting, to paint stuff, that then I had something to see at the end of the day, and I could see something that I'd actually achieved. I found that really, really kind of rewarding. And then the start of interacting with people very much gave me something to think about and to keep me busy and active. So then as I started to recover after the operation, my immediate reaction was that I really wanted to kind of almost give back. And that's kind of where the YouTube bit started, was the fact that, I was used to being in management. I was used to kind of public speaking. So I was, I wanted to do something that I could maybe, give a little bit back and help other people with the hobby that I thought was a really good thing for me. So it's quite an emotional journey, but it was I found it really, really helpful, and I definitely always put the hobby as something that really helped me in times that were pretty tough.
You moved on to Twisted Dice. Well, first of all, you produced a video on Aceface where like I was crying. I was like, "Oh no, he's leaving completely." It's like, what's going on? John, don't leave. So Twisted Dice grew up in 2017 from a conversation between you and two friends. What was the catalyst between this?
It's a great one. So I think that the only frustration that I always had with Aceface, the channel as a whole, was the fact that because I was so busy with family, with work, I could never hit what I wanted to do as enough regular content, and I really, really struggled with that to the extent that I found a lot of, I wouldn't say competition because that's really unfair, but a lot of the people that were doing similar stuff to me around that time, so the likes of Tabletop Tactics and Winters and what were then Geeks Wargaming, now Geeks 40k, those were the guys that were kind of around and were growing up around the same sort of time that I was growing up. But I could see through their schedules and their ability to be able to produce content in a team of people that they were growing exponentially, and I was struggling because I just couldn't meet that level of content. And as much as that was fine with me for a while, when Sean originally came up to me and sort of said, what's it all about? I would like to kind of make content. So I thought, oh yeah, that's great. I said, jump on board and let's you can work with me. And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do something myself, but I want you involved. And we had lots of chats, me, Sean and Darren, around what we wanted to do. And originally it was a bit of a side project, so it was kind of the plan was to keep both going, and Twisted Dice would be much more of an opportunity for me to be able to do battle reports regularly, but not have to worry about the time that it takes to do it. And slowly but surely, it became quite evident that I didn't have the time to be able to commit to both. So it took a long time to make that leap, but eventually I kind of moved off my own channel, my own, and then completely immersed myself in what is now Twisted Dice, and the ability to work in a team. It is me and Darren run the channel now. Sean's taken a little bit of a back step, but we've got a really great team around us. With me and Darren really got clear direction of where we want the channel to go, and it's really exciting to be able to kind of share that journey with somebody. It definitely helps with that workload when you aren't able to commit to it 24/7.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's you could say it's like being now a team has rejuvenated your mojo.
Yeah, absolutely. It just means I can commit, and that's the thing. Like it just means that I can fulfill what I want to fulfill. Now you're always, in this kind of business, you always want to be better. You always want to grow your channel quicker, faster. And that's really, really natural. But at least now I kind of feel that we can grow the channel together in a place where we want to, and that excites me to know that I haven't got that fully sitting on my shoulders, and that it's something that we can share. And that's great, and it's awesome as well to be able to bounce ideas off other people. And Darren and Sean, to be fair, have had so many amazing ideas that I wouldn't have been able to have on my own. So it's been really good for me. It was sad to step away from my own channel because obviously I built that from 2012, and a lot of people that really loyally followed and had some great comments and some great feedback through the years. And I still look at those early videos and cringe, but it was a great part of the journey. So there's still some sad moments around moving away from what I kind of made my name on, but really excited to what the future looks like for Twisted Dice 100%.
With producing battle reports online, you put yourself out there for criticism and trolling when you make a mistake and you don't catch it in the game or editing later. How do you handle the criticism and trolling that comes after?
I think it's something you grow into. I suppose you grow into the acceptance of it. But I work in customer service now. That is my job, and within management, and I get very, very used to having to deal with complaints and issues and things like that have gone wrong. And it very much is very part and parcel of what I do. So I don't take anything personally, which is the first thing. And I don't feed the trolls. I never ever feed the trolls. I tend to have a bit of a philosophy of kill them with kindness, and they have no idea what to do. So you'll get a rule wrong, and someone's got a really relevant point to point you out on where you've got something wrong, but they feel that they need to do it in a really kind of abrasive, blunt way. But if you respond to that in a really calm and kind of kind, almost thanking them for being so rude and abrasive, but in a really kind of kind way, it just completely stumps them, and quite often it literally just turns them in a click. And we've made some really good friends, and some guys that that potentially have invested in the channel that has come from originally them making potentially a bit of a blunt and abrasive comment, and then realizing that actually we're really quite prepared to listen to what they're saying, and we want to improve. So I think a bit of it is just having thick skin and being prepared that you will get criticism, because that's part and parcel of the show, and realizing that actually those mistakes happen in everybody's games. If anybody out there says that they play a clean game of 40k every game, then they're absolutely lying. Nobody does. Even the absolute top players that play 3 or 4 games every day do not play clean games, because there is so much complexity within the game, and there are so many things that the human brain needs to calculate and needs to remember all of the time, that you will always make mistakes. We just have the kind fortune of having those in front of hundreds and thousands of people that are watching them back, and hundreds and thousands of eyes are going to catch the mistakes that you've made. So I think it's understanding that that's human nature, and that's part of the course, and to have thick skins, but also to understand that not to get involved in the trolls, and just kill them with a bit of kindness, and it tends to work pretty well. And thankfully we haven't had a massive amount. It's always quite fun to we laugh at each other as well. When you've got lots of people making battle reports and playing, we have a lot of banter when we make mistakes. So if Darren makes a load of mistakes, then I'll give him a load of stick, and likewise with me. So I think it's having a lot of fun with it as well. It's all part of the course. We're playing with toy soldiers at the end of the day.
Of course. So where next for Twisted Dice? What's coming up from you guys in the future?
We'll continue to do what we're doing. So we've got, at the moment, in a little bit of kind of a slowdown from the battle reports because of the lockdown. So we've spent a lot of money and time invested in improving those battle reports when they come back in. So we've made some adjustments and some extra equipment being added to the studio. So we're excited to even up the level even more of our battle reports. So you'll see an even better battle report coming out when we get back in the studio. But also what we've learned in the period of lockdown is we've learned that actually there's a big appetite, and we've really enjoyed making different types of video. So I've kind of immersed myself back in the probably what I was very, very used to and what I kind of made my name on, which was Tyranid tactics and kind of Tyranid content. So I've committed to keep that going. So that's great, because that's exciting for me to see that kind of grow again, and to kind of almost bring what I was doing over to Twisted Dice. We've started putting a lot of painting tutorials on the channel as well, so and a lot of fluff and narrative stuff. So I suppose what we've decided to do, and the probably the change that people will see and that we're really excited about, is that we won't just be a battle report producer. When things go back to normal, we'll continue to do what we've done in the last couple of months, which is bring people loads of varied content, stuff for everybody, and hopefully some things that people will be really excited to see, and stuff that people can learn from. So it's only good things for us, and I think hopefully for people that watch the channel, they'll start to see things improving even more, and if they like the content, then great, because you'll get even more of it. So all exciting, and really, really can't wait to see what the future holds for us. So it's all good.
Good luck. So where can people find you on the interwebs?
Everywhere. No. So you can, if you go over to YouTube and search Twisted Dice, you can't miss us. So that's the best place to find the channel. We also have a podcast which is called Tip of the Spearhead, which is a not safe for work podcast. I'll put that out there, which you can find through Twisted Dice on any podcast that you're listening to. We're on all of them, and we put up a weekly podcast that we're now starting to feed onto YouTube. We're pretty active on Instagram, so I still run out of Instagram over on Aceface, but I will tag Twisted Dice on pretty much everything. But if you search Aceface on Instagram, you'll find me there, and I'm really, really active, putting all my work in progresses and all my finished army stuff. So a great place to kind of to check us out there. Over under Twisted Dice, you can catch us there, and really interactive place to share stuff. And if you'd like to support the channel and you really love what we do, we also have a Patreon place where you can jump on there. We have a kind of a Patreon only chat page, and we release all our content over there early, which not a lot of people know about. So you can catch all our kind of tutorials and battle reports up to a couple of weeks early in some cases. So really, really cool place to support the channel and get loads of perks and all sorts of good stuff. And we'll be running events soon, so you'll see all the event stuff, but that's generally advertised through our Facebook page. But whatever medium, search Twisted Dice, you'll probably find us, and I'll be there or thereabouts.
So final question, this is not hobby related, but it's one I've started asking everyone else. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Of course it does not. What a sick question. Yeah, that's a classic. That's a very me question, that one, actually. That's like what people used to troll me with, whether a Jaffa cake is a cake or a biscuit. It's dangerous territory, that one. That's another one for you.
Oh,
but
I'm making
add that one.
Yep, add that one to the next interview.
But no, the thing is, my daughter loves it. She loves the Hawaiian, but for me, that's wrong. That's all kinds of wrong. don't ruin a pizza like that. Don't do it.
Okay, Ace, thanks so much for taking part in this interview with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Just